Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leora. If you're new here, this is Sam. You may have seen her in like some vlogs. She sits next to me in pre-clin, so that's probably why you recognize her face. So today we're going to talk about one of the ways that you can pay for dental school, and that is through HPSP. First question, how did you hear about HPSP?
So when I was in undergrad, I was part of the pre-dental society there, and we actually had some alumni from Duke come and talk to us about what dental school was like for them. And one of the girls was actually a HPSP recipient for the Air Force. So I first heard about it from her.
Cool, all right. And when did you decide to apply for HPSP?
So it's a fairly lengthy application process. So I started it before even submitting my applications to dental school. So it was probably like the summer before the application cycle started, and I reached out to an AMED recruiter.
So wait, is this like a full year prior?
Yeah, like over a year.
Wow.
Between when I applied and when I heard back about getting the scholarship. So basically they review the applications at certain like time points in the year. So like if you want the scholarship for when you're entering dental school, you have to start it like fairly early. So I think I started it in like August of 2018, and I wasn't sworn into like August of the following year, and my application was reviewed in October. So basically they had between like October to like June, July to like decide who they picked. So it definitely takes a lot of like preparation and like advanced planning.
Definitely. I know that's what I've kind of seen looking at SDN and stuff. So I don't know all the specifics. Yeah, so I was gonna ask you, what is the timeline for applying for HPSP? So, I mean, guess kind of break it down to the steps you have to do.
Yeah, so first you wanna reach out to AMED recruiters, and they're basically specific for the branches. So you apply, so I only applied to the Army, but you can apply to several branches at the same time if you want to. But you have to redo the paperwork for like everyone. So
is it the same paperwork?
It's pretty much the same paperwork, but like each branch kind of has its own
like
forms.
Questions and stuff.
Yep, so like for Air Force, I know that they have like an in-person interview, whereas for mine, the HPSP application was all written. And it was only 3 questions, but they were like essays, so I had to like complete that, not have an in-person interview.
So you're graded solely, not graded, but like you're looked at just based on your responses. So that's kind of a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I don't remember like exactly what the questions were, but one of them I kind of modified my personal statement for dental school into like just incorporate why I was also interested in like serving in the military as well as being a dentist. And I forget what the other 2 were. I think they asked about like my extracurriculars, leadership positions, and like if I had any family in the branches. Yeah, and then they also look at your GPA, so that's also still very important when you apply.
Good, yeah. So do you think that certain GPAs are needed to be able to get an HPSP, or is it very holistic?
It's definitely very holistic. Full disclosure, I had a 3.34 like overall GPA.
Okay.
So
she went to Duke though, like
they told me they didn't take into consideration what school you went to, because I asked that.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's no minimum cutoff. You obviously have to be in good enough academic standing to have graduated, but
what was your major though?
I was biology. I was a double BS, biology and evolutionary anthropology, which is just like anatomy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they also look into like your letters of recommendation, like your responses. A big thing is they kind of want to weed out the people that are just doing it for the money, which is like not something you want to emphasize in like any question they ask you. Like, don't mention the money. Although it is an important factor, it's, you know, not your main reason that you should do it. Yeah, apart from all the paperwork, you also have to go through like a physical test. It's basically just like blood tests, like making sure you have normal ranges of motion. You do have to have, I think, a BMI of like 23 is the maximum you can have. Okay. And then there's like, I had to like do a pacer running test, like be able to deadlift, like
a lot of physical
throw
tests.
a medicine ball. It's like, I was nervous for the physical test, but at the same time, it was just kind of like gym class, like exercise.
Oh yeah, kind of like in high school when you're gonna have to like do these things.
Yeah. So I was just kind of like, why is this relevant to like being a dentist? But they just want to make sure that you're like healthy and are able to like perform tasks.
Yes, because you are still joining the Army and they have physical requirements.
Yes.
So back to the physical aspect of it. So did you have to pass these things before you got accepted, or how did that work?
So the medical testing I had to do before my application would be considered, and then the part about like the PACER test, the medicine ball, like that kind of stuff I did after.
After you got the scholarship?
After I got the scholarship. I did it maybe like a month after being sworn in. So yeah.
So what would have happened if you didn't pass? Would you get another shot at it, like passing it?
I think so. I think you get like 2 or 3 tries. It was basically like we did different activities. So if it was like I couldn't, deadlift 160 pounds, they'd put it back down to like 150 and be like, try it again.
Okay.
Yeah, they're usually like very flexible, especially with the officers. Like they know that you're not there to be like the guns of the operation. Like this is the nerd squad they're dealing with. So like they bump down like the physical requirements. Like for the officers.
I was gonna say, I feel like some of us aren't the beefiest of people in dental school. Okay, so that was all the stuff leading up to you getting accepted. So when did you hear back from them that you did get the scholarship?
So I actually heard back in January after my application was reviewed in October, and they basically told me I got put on a wait list.
Okay.
And I was like, this is really sad, like wasn't what I wanted. But I talked to my AMED recruiter and she's like, we'll put you on the wait list, and worst comes to worst, you can reapply and you can still do a 3-year scholarship. So they pay for 3 years of dental school, and in return you basically serve active duty for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's still like a really good option. A lot of people choose to do it that way instead of the 4 years. But basically I heard back in June, late June, maybe it was July. It was pretty late. I had already committed to Tufts. I actually started out taking out loans because I was like, okay, I guess I'm not gonna have the scholarship, so continue on as planned. But I took out the loans, and then when I heard back in July, I was super excited. Like, yes, I was still interested, and then I got sworn in mid-August.
Okay.
So what ended up happening was I gave back all of the loan money I had taken, and then the government paid for it, and then I started receiving my stipend. So it's a little messier of a way to do it, but I still ended up getting the 4-year scholarship. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that she was planning on going to Tufts, which is a very expensive school, and taking out those full loans without knowing that she would get HPSP. Don't apply to expensive dental schools unless you're willing to, take out the loans for it. So I think that's really important. But you did get it, which is awesome. So what requirements do you have to fulfill now that you have the scholarship?
So essentially, in terms of academic standing, I have to maintain a 3.0 GPA or higher.
Okay.
And
is that hard at Tufts, do you think?
I could definitely see, a 3.0 is like what, a flat B? So you can't be like, C's get degrees and be like a HPSP. But so far I haven't had any like close calls with that, but I'm still only like a semester and a half in, so there's time.
Yeah.
And in terms of your duty requirements, essentially the military is very understanding that like academics come first. Like you're in dental school, I'm technically in the reserves right now. I'm not, active duty the whole year. But essentially there are 2 summer like training commitments. One of them is called the direct commissioning course, which is for like every officer takes it, and it's 5 weeks long, and they have like 2 dates for it in the summer. And then after you do DCC, there's a bulk, BOLK, I don't know what that stands for. That's 6 weeks that you take after you've done DCC. But like for instance this year, like the Tufts academic calendar like conflicted with both of the dates, so I just had to have the dean like write a letter to like our HPSP coordinator, and I got exempted from duty, so I'm not required to go. So like if you have any conflicts with those like duty dates, like
they're flexible, they're
very flexible and understanding. And
do you have to make those up, or it's just kind of like You can't do them.
No, you still have to do them. So if you can't make them during any of your 3 summers in dental school, basically once you graduate, you will have to do them both like concurrently. So 11 weeks of training like after you graduate. So it's not like you get like waived from doing it forever.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you still have to do it, but it'll just be after you graduate. I think the one downside to that is if you wanted to do a GPR after graduating, you can't if you don't do the trainings like during your time in school, which
so you can do GPR as part of HPSP still.
So yeah, that's I feel like one of the concerns I had, because I didn't know if I wanted to specialize or not, but if you want to do a 1-year like GPR after graduating, you totally can. You just defer your active duty.
And are they still paying for that schooling?
If they pay for the schooling, you're up to like 5 years of active duty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like for every year of school, more in the Army, Air Force, Navy.
Yep, and it's the same thing if you want to go into a specialty program for 2 years. You know, they'll pay for the training, but then it just adds on to your active duty you're required to do afterwards.
That's not bad, actually.
Yeah.
How much do you receive from HPSP? Like, is there a limit to what they give you?
So essentially, you're not restricted by any like it has to be an accredited dental school, but they'll pay like whatever the tuition is. So Tufts is one of the most expensive. They're like, okay, we'll write you a check for that tuition. It's not restricted that way. I received a $20,000 sign-on bonus when I was commissioned, and about every month they adjust it based on where you live. So for Boston, I think I make a little under $2,400 a month after taxes come out. I think it's about a little over $2,100, which is my living expense. And then if you're active duty,
I was just stop you there.
Okay.
$2,400, isn't that in our financial aid manual? Isn't that what they thought that our living cost would be? Is that where the number comes from?
Potentially. I don't know exactly.
Or the Army. I was just wondering if they look at, okay, this is what Tufts says cost of living is.
It's very likely that that's probably the
and so they give you that exact number.
Yeah.
No more, no less.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, then when you're active duty over the summer, you get like bonus pay, even if you can't go to the training dates, which everyone gets really excited for when they get their bonus pay over the summer.
You have the money that you receive from HPSP. So these bonus, so what do you, like, is that supposed to be part of your tuition? Like it goes toward your tuition? I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, so it's like, it's weird because basically I'm considered Army Reserves, except for like 45 days in the summer when they have those like active duty like courses going on. But since we get exempted from it, it's like we still get the 45 days of active duty. So essentially you get paid more when you're active duty versus reserve. So it's just like a little extra check in the summer that you get.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I guess my main question was, does HPSP cover everything?
Yeah, so they're like really, I mean, I haven't had trouble living with the money they give me every month, and it's like I get paid twice a month. Like I know exactly the day I'm getting paid.
You're an employee.
Right. It's essentially like you have a job, but your job is just like going to school.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't had any problems or delays in getting money from HPSP. They've been very like on top of it. And also, this doesn't really apply to our school, but like if you do have to pay for textbooks or pay out of pocket for equipment, they also give you like I think a $500 a year like they'll reimburse you for $500 a year for like a computer or like technology rental that you need. So basically anything that's like required by your program that you have, the Army or any branch will pay for it. They pay for your licensing exams. Like
that's really
you're
nice.
like really very well taken care of.
That sounds really great. So you have no loans right now, at least for dental school.
Yep, they don't cover any undergraduate loans you have, but in terms of dental school, like living expenses, extra fees that are required by your school, tuition, they completely cover it. They'll also even pay for if your school requires that you have proof of insurance. If you don't have insurance, they'll pay the whatever the price is for you
health
to be
insurance?
on. Yeah.
Okay.
The health insurance for the school. So
that's great. Yeah, I mean, they want to make sure that you're taken care of because you're going to be working for them, and they want to make sure everything's good.
You also get a life insurance policy, but like I don't think that's...
I don't know anything about life insurance.
But yeah.
I'm going to say that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the process so far that you've gone through and how everything's handled? Is everything organized?
Yeah,
Easy to kind of navigate?
I think the most important part is you kind of have to be proactive when you get in touch with an AMED recruiter. I had a really amazing relationship with my recruiter. I emailed her questions, we talked on the phone. She was very open with me. I feel like answered any questions I had, and if she didn't know the answer, she would go higher up and get an answer for me. They give you plenty of opportunities to be are you sure you want to do this before you sign your contract? I didn't feel pressured. I didn't feel rushed at all. So I would say just really form a great relationship with your recruiter, because they're really your point person for asking any HPSP questions to before you're commissioned or essentially in. And I would also just say, for me, the biggest reason I decided to do it wasn't because of anything the recruiter said to me. I actually talked to other dental students who were in the program, and I just by chance when I was shadowing ran into dentists who had done this program, and it was really interesting hearing, and everyone's experience is different obviously, but it was just really interesting hearing the different experiences they had and how they feel it helped them when they eventually decommissioned and went into private practice. So yeah, that's my probably advice for people who are deciding whether or not to do it, is to just talk to people who have done it and see what their experiences were.
What would you say to someone who wants to just do it for the money? Are they going to be someone who the Army or any military branch can kind of pick out right away? What is, because I know a lot of people that dental school's expensive. This is an easy way to pay for it. I mean, it happens a lot. I
would say it kind of depends. I mean, I feel if you don't act you're in it for the money, and you could very easily slide, I guess, under their radar if you're come across as oh, I'm very patriotic and I'm ready to serve, put me on the front line, I'm ready to go.
But they're looking for people who want to serve their country. That is the main thing.
I mean, obviously with any branch of the military, that's what essentially your job is. I would say they also, just how the military is in general, they really want people who are team players. I'm pretty sure I got asked questions, the leadership questions, how do you interact as a team. They want people who aren't, kind of just slacking off in school to get by. They want people that are, taking it really seriously and striving to be the best, and not just oh, I have a free ride. My life is great. But I would say, obviously, I mean, the financials is a big aspect for it, but internally, your motivation for doing it, that shouldn't be the sole reason. I would be lying if I said it wasn't a part of a reason why I decided to do it. But I think ultimately, it's great because they, you're oh, they're giving me all this money, but you have to keep in mind, after dental school, I have an obligation that I have to fulfill. So I think it's easy to get the instant gratification and then forget about why I'm doing it, and then it hits you at graduation, oh,
I'm a serve.
I'm going to training camp. But yeah, I think obviously it's a factor for everyone, and I think that over the years they are pretty good at being able to pick out people who seem more incentivized by the money they're dangling in front of you than wanting to serve. But yeah.
No, that's good. I am on SDN pretty frequently just because I like to keep up with things, and I feel sometimes people just throw it out, oh, I'm going to go to an expensive school, but I'll just apply for HPSP. And I don't think that, first of all, it's very competitive, so that's something to keep in mind. And also, it's not something you can just be oh yeah, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, and I will also say, if people are concerned, I was a little concerned about my GPA going into the program. The Army is probably one of the less competitive HPSP programs for dental, just because it's larger, so they take a larger proportion of applicants. For the Air Force, I think there's 20 dentists they take, HPSP dentists they take every year.
Another question, how many for each branch do they take every year, do you know?
I think the Army is around I want to say like 150. I think the Air Force, it's really competitive. It's 20. The Navy, I really don't know anything about.
Yeah, that's
no. No one really talks about the Navy. It's always like the Air Force.
The secret.
Yeah. No. And again, like in terms of like the bases of where you would work, like the Air Force is generally known for having more money and a little bit nicer facilities, but the Army again is just larger. So they have kind of, I don't want to say more resources, but just kind of more locations and more flexibility.
Final question. So you said that your recruiter gives you options to like not do it. They're like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? So once you sign that, you're in it, right? There's no breaking the contract. How does that work?
To my knowledge, you can't break the contract.
Yeah.
If you do for any reason, it's considered like a dishonorable discharge. And you also have to pay back all of the money that they've given you, which I don't know how I would come up with that money, so I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I'll also just add to this as well, when you're doing your application, they're also very interested in people who are interested in serving longer than the 4 years. Not necessarily making a career out of it, but you know, you are basically a captain when you graduate, which is it's like second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, then you go up to major. I actually talked to my recruiter about this. I was like, so like, how long would I have to stay in like after my 4-year commitment to be like promoted to a major? And she said, oh, that'd probably be like another 2 years. I also watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so it was like a major own hunt, ready to go. But yeah, they're also interested in people who are at least open to the idea of staying in longer than 4 years, because that's obviously very beneficial for them.
Yeah.
To keep you in for longer. But
no, that's good. Yeah, again, they want people who are passionate about the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, so that makes sense. And what about when you are finally serving? Do you know anything about kind of what happens then, like the pros and cons of serving in the Army?
So obviously the biggest con to come up with is you have some say in where you get put, but ultimately like your orders are your orders. So I mentioned before, you kind of get to rank. I think I ranked my top 5 locations of where I would want to be stationed after dental school, but they put you where they need you. So if there's no openings in those places I ranked, like, you know, I could be put in, you know, Texas, which is not a place I would have chosen to go, or like some other place.
I think you'll be safe. I think a lot of people want to move to Texas.
So that's like kind of a con. They do take into consideration though, if you're married, if you have children, like kind of tying, you know, they don't try to break up families or like remove you from that. So they try their best to like not separate you from your like civilian ties, if that makes sense. So that's definitely the biggest con. So you do have to be kind of open to the idea of being flexible where you live.
Does this include overseas?
Good question, because that was like my mom's first question when I was talking about it to her. From my understanding, for dentists, no. Like you're stay domestic, but if you do want to go to an international base, you can absolutely preference that. And they have an amazing medical center in Germany that I'd like love to go to. Don't know if they really have a need for dentists there, but that's an option. But yeah, from my understanding, like you, in your contract, you're committed as a dentist. They're not going to move you into another, you know, field if need be, if we were in like a wartime or anything like that. Like you're committed to being a dentist, and from my understanding, you're domestic, stationed at a base. You don't have to live on the base. You can commute to the base and work in their clinics there, mainly treating like enlisted soldiers.
And pros?
Pros? I know, it's a lot of cons. Pros. And this is something I obviously don't have experience with yet because I'm not at the service point, but the main pull for me from talking to dentists who had done it is they said, you know, you graduate from dental school, most people are not going to go and open a private practice. It's a huge risk and you have no experience. So what are your other options? You can do a GPR or you can do like a residency if you know you want to specialize, but a lot of people, they temp at different dentist offices, and from the perspective I got from these dentists, temping isn't the greatest thing in the world because essentially you're like production based, you know, you're not on for salary. And so a lot of the dentists will kind of like give you the grunt work and like the stuff they might not really want to put attention to. So that was kind of a con for me going temping. But with the Army, I kind of look at it as a 4-year GPR. I'm salary based. You make, I want to say, about $90,000, which is low for a dentist, but you have to keep in mind you don't have any student debt to pay off back.
Which is a big pro.
So yeah, you make like $90,000, but you're salary based. You don't have to worry about bringing in patients, you know, to a practice. You know, your treatment planning your own cases. Your patients all have TRICARE, so you're not like feeling a need to sell them treatment, like they have like some degree of coverage. So I just kind of look at it as like a 4-year GPR. You get like your feet wet, you get exposed to, you know, different types of, or different areas of dentistry. It's kind of a low pressure environment where you can still like learn, ask people for help, and really focus on the dentistry. So you're not, you know, worrying about meeting, you know, an overhead. You're not worrying about if you're seeing enough patients in a day. Like you're not doing, you know, just drilling and filling all day because, you know, another dentist doesn't want to do that. So that's kind of a big pro for me, and I felt like, you know, after serving, you know, I'd have, you know, confidence. I would, you know, be confident in my clinical skills and, you know, be able to put more focus on, you know, like the business part of private practice.
Yeah, these are all great points. And can I say that if they're interested, they can like...
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So if you're interested in HPSP, I will put her handle on Insta right here. You can shoot her a message. Her DMs are open. So thank you, Sam, for coming and talking.
No, thanks for having me.
We learned a lot, so definitely a good option, but it is not the only option. So stay tuned for the next parts.
Go Army!